Hey guys, it's Mo from the Market Edge. Welcome to my channel. The basic purpose of the channel is to help you understand the markets. We will speak and talk about everything and anything markets related. I will take you through the market through my lens. In no way, shape or form is this financial advice, so please keep it only for an educational purposes. Now, in terms of the financial markets, we will be discussing stocks, crypto, forex, indices, and commodities. I am a finance enthusiast. I have been doing this for a number of years now. I have a professional career as a analyst at a leading investment bank. So, how do I go about start of my day? What am I looking at in terms of markets? Despite what everyone says in terms of the dollar, whether it be the depegging of the dollar with yuan and anything anyone else says, dollar is still king. DXY or the dollar index is your safe haven asset. A lot of individuals will move away from risk assets and go towards DXY, gold, and yen in times of uncertainty. So, whenever you want to start your analysis in terms of what do you want to trade, what do you want to look at, you always want to start with the DXY. The DXY will give you a good sense of direction on a macro level time frame. So looking at the DXY chart in front of me, currently if we start up with a top-down approach, starting up all the way up from the monthly time frame, so each of these candles represents how trading has occurred for the dollar in the time frame. As we can see, the dollar has been consolidated since May 2025. We established a local low, and based upon where it's currently moving, it is very hard to predict whether it's going to go up or down. But that does not mean that we don't have a sense of macro direction. In the event of uncertainty in times where we have war or everything else, we would often expect a stronger dollar. Now, this is contrary to what Trump wants. Trump would rather sacrifice his dollar for risk on assets, and for that, he wants the dollar to go down. So, whenever a dollar is actually ended up going up, it is creating a pressure on your risk weighted assets, which we will see in a minute. So, if I go drop down from a monthly time frame to a weekly time frame, what I'm seeing right now on a weekly as well is we are holding towards the upper side of the range. Last week we had a bullish expansion on the dollar, primarily because of the FOMC, with Powell being very hawkish in nature, signaling that they will not shy away from rate hikes if needed. The market was currently not expecting this, and as a result of that, we saw a bullish expansion. Now, given the start of this week, what do I expect? I would expect a bullish continuation on dollar to occur this week. Probably go towards a bit further up towards the upper end of this range. And if I personally was looking to trade this, I would say that we would go towards the upper end of the range and then we'll take it from there. Today, what has dollar done? So dollar has traded all the way up to its gap. This gap was created on the 7th of April. FX and other pairs, they love to go ahead and fill in their gap. So it's going for a gap fill. And so just based upon what I've told you already, with expecting a bullish dollar, further expansion above, what is the first thing you want to look for? You would expect automatically that your risk on assets will tend to fade away this week in a normal case. Now, this is not a normal market. With Mr. Trump and everything going on, he can easily come out and throw one tweet out the way, and the next thing we know, we're probably flying. But currently, what we can do is, and what I also personally believe is, the market will always, and the charts will always tell you what happens before an event actually happens. But you cannot always rule out the factor of uncertainty which comes from Trump. So, just based on what I've told you already, we're looking to expect a bullish dollar heading into this week. A bullish dollar will hence therefore put pressure on your risk on assets. So in terms of risk on assets, what do I expect to happen? So if you start off with my favorite, which is the Nasdaq, is your 100 tech companies, the top 100 tech companies. It is a weighted index of their performances, and it's a judge of how the overall tech sector is performing. This is where your big names is Nvidia, Tesla, Apple, Microsoft, they all sit. And as you can see from the time when the US actually ended up attacking Iran, we saw a general sell-off. But as soon as Trump started intervening about deals and sanctions and Strait of Hormuz trying to reopen it again, we saw this rally, which the markets pricing in the fact that the war will come to an end, the Fed will cut, and all the good news which happened throughout March till the end of April and May. Quick fact to anyone, every single year the market typically does the same thing. So around Q1 of every year, you will have a general sort of sell-off. And behind a sell-off, there will always be a particular reason. Last year, it was the tariff. This year, it is Trump's war. Next year, it will be something else as well. But generally, every single year, there is something which occurs which causes this sort of a sell-off. Now, coming back to my point we discussed earlier on DXY being bullish, what do I expect the Nasdaq to do? Essentially, Nasdaq is probably likely to sell off a bit or cool down a bit. Now, do I mean that we are actually going to sell off and stocks are going to sell off? Absolutely not. Do I think we are due a general pullback since this monstrous move up on the weekly time frame? Yes. So if I were to ask or gun to my head, what do we expect this week? Unless we have some news come out of China or news come out from Iran or the US, we would expect a general cooling of the market, which means that stocks should generally begin to fall, which you would want to hear because although this looks favorable in terms of a bull market, you don't want to be buying up here. So you want generally some sort of full pullback, something you can go ahead and load up on more stocks on. So what I would say is it's not all gone or lost. There will be plenty of more opportunities, but just got to be patient out for this huge monstrous move up. You don't want to be chasing everything up here. Okay. So that's your tech sector on the Nasdaq. So Nasdaq general predictions this week is a small sort of sell-off, maybe pushing down, seeing if we can go to the low 28,000s, and then from there, seeing if some news comes out, which could potentially then cause us to go up again. So something like this is what I would expect at the minimum, and then we'll see if we want to make another high after that. Okay, and that's my prediction on the Nasdaq. Now, switching it up, going towards Bitcoin, which is everyone's favorite. Now, Bitcoin's been in a very funny place. Bitcoin has been selling off very aggressively since it made its high in October 2025. Now, do I believe this is the end of the Bitcoin bull market and that now we're going to sell all the way to the floor? Absolutely not. Bitcoin runs in phases. So there'll be a bull market, there'll be a bear market, and there'll be a bull market. Typically on Bitcoin runs as a period of 3 bull markets followed by a bear market. Technically, we are in a technical correction or a bear market. If I switch to the yearly time frame, you can see we are making our way down. Now, do I think we have bottomed on Bitcoin? I do not think so. But does that mean you should go ahead and sell all your Bitcoin with the assumption that you could buy lower? It's very risky. The best approach to Bitcoin if you are an investor is to just go ahead and hold for the longer term. And I would say any dips which are go below 70,000 is always a very good opportunity to buy. I do not see Bitcoin staying below 70,000, let alone 60,000 for a long time. So any dips they see below that are potentially good buying opportunities to hold to once again go up and go towards the highs once more. Okay, now moving over to my other favorite asset, but not always the most kind one, is gold. Now, gold has had this ravishing sort of rally since the last couple of periods now, so it's been absolutely just been flying every single month. It's just been flying. Now, people often ask me, Mo, what do you think is going to happen with gold now? Should we go ahead and buy up at these highs? My sort of perspective on gold is if you zoom out on the monthly time frame, we have been consistently been flying. We had this humongous sell-off in March in account for war. Yes, account for war. I know you would think in times of war, gold should be flying, but this is where it gets very clever. So what banks like to do is, or banks and institutional investors, what they would like to do is they like to sell when everyone wants to buy. So the people in March actually acted as exit liquidity for a lot of these major banks. Now, when do I think, or where do I think gold could potentially stabilize? I think we need to go a bit more lower on gold. And On a weekly time frame, as you can see, we had this impulsive push down which happened on the 9th of March. We've struggled to actually trade outside of this weekly candle. So the weekly low price of 4488 and the weekly high price of 5k. The highest we went was 4881, and now we are struggling a lot. Now, unless something fundamentally changes, typically we should continue on grinding lower to get to a local low. And I will want to see this sort of wick being retested, maybe not all the way to 4001, but maybe another $300 lower, and then we can assess from there whether we want to continue on going higher. So for gold, I would say it's more of a wait and watch approach, or if you're one of those people who like to dollar cost average, please feel free to go ahead. Okay, and then looking at a couple of stocks which I feel are doing pretty well. So Nvidia has had this massive rally up. The sell-off is due to the fact that China have actually not really ordered the chips from Nvidia, as per the US reports out of China from Jensen's visit. And so Nvidia is due a pretty good cooling. I would say, however, is if Nvidia were to get closer to $200 again, it's probably a good buy, and we could probably head up close to $300 on the longer term time frame. So I would say any pullback in Nvidia is a good opportunity to load up more and to hold for longer. Tesla's another one, but the issue with Tesla is with the SpaceX IPO coming up. A lot of people have invested in Tesla out of the belief in Elon, and with the SpaceX IPO coming up in June, there could be somewhat of a shift in assets between Tesla and SpaceX as people actually invest in Elon's vision in SpaceX rather than Tesla, which has moved away from cars more towards robotics. But that being said, do I think Tesla has more room to go higher? Of course. I would say that Tesla has at least another chance to go up towards its highs and retest 500. But for that, again, I would say a most welcome pullback is necessary. Similar case for Apple, another one as part of the mega tech stocks. So Apple is another one where I would say is any pullbacks that are welcome, and therefore you should wait to decide to go ahead and buy more Apple. Apple hit its local top, which is the $300 mark, which we expected. I think with stocks, you look at $50 mark. So once we've cleared 300, you can potentially go ahead and hold it to 350. The stocks like to move in these $50 to $100 levels, and they all often are very, very key. Similar case applies to your Nasdaq, which can move in $500 to $1,000 levels, just to keep an eye on. And then finally, oil. So oil, for the last couple of weeks since we had that big explosive reaction from all that Iran war where we hit 110, it's always been consolidating between these two bands, which is between 110 and 76. It's a huge range to play with. Now, look at this. Oil's made one attempt up. It tried another attempt to take out the high, it didn't. It tried a third attempt to take out the high, it didn't. The range is getting very tight here. So for me, oil is a lot macro dependent. And if I were to look at this in isolation, with all the news you hear on the media about the war cooling down and everything cooling down, you would expect oil to kind of just fade away and probably move toward the lower bound. This would probably be a good area to go at, around 60-ish, but fade towards the lower end to cover all of its gaps. But you see, oil is giving us different view. Oil is telling us it wants to move higher. Now, an oil which wants to move higher is essentially meaning that there is something on the war horizon looming. Now, what is that? We can't tell. So we will trade whatever the chart shows us, or we should go ahead and invest in what the chart shows us. So the chart is telling me we're likely to go higher on oil in the intermediate term. And what does this mean in terms of general market? It aligns with DXY. So oil and dollar both move side by side. So it's probably expecting both of them to go up. I'm expecting gold to cool off. And I'm also expecting the stock market to cool off a bit. So in terms of your longer term investments, guys or girls, what I would say is hold off. Wait for a little while. The opportunities are coming. But if you're one of those guys who likes to intraday trade or day trade, I will try to stick to the short term as much as possible. I think we've made a intermediate term high at the moment with all these rallies and all these stocks and indices. So it's it's about time we have some sort of pullback. We're not going to go into a full-fledged market, full-fledged bear market, but there will be some sort of pullback which could occur. So yeah, I think that's my overall general market outlook. So we cover stocks and commodities and oil. If you have any questions, please do let me know. Anything you think I could touch on better, or anything in particular you want me to look at, also do let me know. And yeah, I'll drop another market update close to midweek to see where we're at, and what could be the plan for the remainder of the week. And then yeah, one focusing on the outlook for the next week. So major events this week, there is nothing currently on the economic calendar. The thing to keep in mind now is the whole Trump, Iran and China sort of things. And when news come out of China and news comes out of Iran, just things to keep an eye on. But like I said, the charts often will tell you the story before it actually happens, and it does look like we do some sort of technical correction. Okay, stay safe, everybody, and yeah, catch you next time. Thank you very much. Goodbye.